Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokémon Emerald video. Today I will be playing through the game with another one of the poison types from the first generation. Today is the turn of a Muk to shine in this game, hopefully so. For the rules, I can only use my starter in combat, I cannot use items from my bag in battle, I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. Muk may seem kinda similar to Weezing, but there are quite a few significant differences that we'll see throughout the game. At the start of the game, Muk will have a bit of an easier time since it starts with a bit better moveset. We still have the unreliable Poison Gas, but instead of Tackle we have Pound, which is slightly stronger and more accurate. Also I have Harden, which may not seem that important, but it may play a role very soon. As usual, by using a fully evolved Pokémon at the start of the game, the first few matches are not really that big of an issue. Even the grunt in the forest goes down to a couple of pounds. Much like with Weezing, the first major roadblock is going to be Roxanne, but this time around she might be a bit easier. First of all, we already learned Sludge, so we have a decent move to hit her with, and also I have Harden to increase my physical defense, so that her rock attacks will not hurt that bad in the long run. Unfortunately, that will only help out a little bit, as I still have no way of healing myself, and thanks to the nature, my defense is not very good. I lost once to Roxanne since her Pokémons are still very tanky, as they resist pretty much everything I can throw at them. I even had to use Pound against the first Geodude, because otherwise I do not have enough Sludge PPs to deal with the rest of her team. Or at least that's the case if they spam Defense Curl. If they don't, my damage is somewhat respectable, at least for a resisted attack. After quite a few turns of getting through the Geodudes, I can finally take on her ace Pokémon, and this time around, Nosepass is going to be a bit easier. My damage output is still very bad because Nosepass has quite a lot of physical defense, and so I have to sort of rely on the fixed damage from poison once again. At least she cannot heal her Nosepass all that much, since she already used the potions on the two Geodudes. After quite a long fight, we can finally come out on top, and thanks to that we have acquired the first gym badge. Today I am not as overleveled as I was with the Weezing, but since I still have a good move on my moveset and a lot higher attack, the next few fights are still going to be quite easy. The Team Aqua Grunt in the cave is of course destroyed, and the fight against May was not that hard either. Thanks to a nice poison, I can two-shot Torkoal even through Curse, and Mudkip cannot do much to me yet. Of course, since I am using a poison type today too, I still have a decent matchup against Brawly, and so I decided to take him on early. My damage output is not that great. I am a bit surprised about that since my base attack is quite a bit higher than Weezing, but even with all of that, I am still able to get through Brawly with no issues at all. Now that we have acquired the second badge too, we can resume our journey, and in this Lateport town, we have to defend ourselves from two more Team Aqua grunts. The Pokémons that these guys use are very frail, and so one sludge is enough to defeat them, even the Zubat who resists my poison attacks. Now that we have defeated them, we have to unfortunately sit here and listen to Archie rant for quite a while. Once he is done with the monologue, we can go back to the grind, and our next fight is going to be against May. In this occasion, she is a bit scary. Her Pokémons are not that powerful, but her Marshtomp resists my poison move and can hit me back with a somewhat powerful Mud Shot that deals good damage and also slows me down so that she can outspeed the next turns. Even with that, I was still able to defeat her in the first attempt, and so we can move on to the next gym. Much like with Weezing, the most dangerous Pokémon on his team is Magneton, and so I once again took the time to gather up enough money to buy Flamethrower. Even though my special attack is even lower this time around, it was still enough to get a clean one-shot on Magneton. And with that Pokémon defeated, there was very little that the rest of his team could do to stop me. Now that we have secured this badge too, we can go to the next side of the region where we are informed about Max's plan by the other teams. Of course, we cannot let Maxi get through with it, and so we climb the local volcano to try to stop him. The fight with him is going to be a bit painful, mostly because of the Intimidate from my Tiena. With my attack lowered, my moves will not deal that much damage, and so I will have to take a lot of turns to defeat each of his Pokémons. Fortunately, by this point, they do not have much to hit me with either, and so the fight, even though it was long, it was also quite safe. Now that we have solved that problem, we can go to the next gym, whose leader is Flannery and uses fire types. I lost once to her because of a very bad paralysis RNG, and in the second attempt things went much better. Fortunately for me, this Camerupt either does not have any ground attacks to hit me with. Torkoal could still be a problem because of the overheat, even though this time around I have a lot more special defense to take his attacks. Now that we have completed this badge too and have acquired all the first 4 badges of the region, we can go back quite a bit and face our dead. Norman could be problematic because his normal attacks might deal good damage to me since my defense is not very high. I am still a couple of levels off of Sludge Bomb, and so I still have to play with Sludge. One move that can help me out a lot is Acid Armor, and honestly I should have used it much earlier. Slacking tries to go for the yawn strategies, but a lucky poison status effect saves me from Norman using a bunch of hyper potions on it. With this gym defeated too, we can use Surf to explore the rest of the region, and eventually we get to the Weather Institute. Here we have to free the scientists from the Team Aqua Admiral Shelley. Her team is not particularly powerful, and with the Sludge Bomb, even after the Intimidate, my Tiena is a one-shot. Of course, not long after that, we have to deal with our rival again. Her team is not that much better than last time, and my damage output is even greater, so Marshtomp is unable to deal that much damage to me before I can take it out. Once we have won the fight against the rival, we can do some more stuff around the town and then we have to take on the gym. Winona is a bit more threatening this time around as I do not want to lose any of my moves for Shockwave. And also Altaria can do good damage to me with Earthquake since I do not have Levitate to ignore that move today. Even after all of those problems, I am still able to take down her team without having to reset. I was a bit surprised to one-shot Skarmory with the flamethrower, but I guess the level difference played a huge part in that. Anyway, now that we have the fly badge too, we can walk to the next town over, and here we have to face our rival for the last time. She is guarding the substitute TM, and so we have to deal with her sooner or later, because I will surely use that move for the league. I do not have much to say about her in this fight. Her team is not that powerful. The only decent thing against me is Marshtomp, but that Pokémon is a bit too weak at this point to pose a real threat. Next, we got the magma emblem from the lady in the Pokémon cemetery, and with this key item, we can enter the cave where Groudon is sleeping. As we reach the legendary, we see Maxi wake it up with the wrong orb. Unfortunately, I lost quite a few times to him in this fight. And it's all fault of Earthquake from Camerupt. That move deals a lot of damage and he is able to two-shot me with it. In the successful attempt, I used a couple acid armors at the start of the fight so that my defense would be very high and I would be able to take at least a couple of attacks. Thanks to that increase in my stats, I was able to get through the dangerous Camerupt and finally, after a long while, defeat the rest of his Pokémons. Next, I went to the Team Aqua base, and here we are only able to find the other one of their admirals. He also has an intimidating Mightyena to annoy me, but this time around the rest of his team is not that dangerous, and so after a few turns I can be done with him too. Next we have to deal with Tate and Liza, and once again the fight against them was not exactly a walk in the park. Even though I have a lot more special defense, I am now vulnerable to Claydol's Earthquake, which might be an even bigger danger. To try to mitigate his damage, I used an acid armor at the start of the fight, but even then I had to use quite a few rare candies to increase my level significantly. Thanks to the increased defense stat, the earthquakes do not hurt all that much now, and I can take quite a lot of them. This fight was still very close, and even though I do a good amount of damage to the other Pokémons, I still had to be rescued by a well-timed status effect. Once I only had the Claydol left and I survived his last attack, I knew the match was over in my favor, because even though they can heal him quite a few times, I can just spam return and be done with this. Now that this match is over too, we can make our way to Pokemon NASA and take on the leadership of Team Magma there with the help of Steven Stone. Once again, I never know if those Camerupts know Rock Slide, Earthquake, both of those moves. Fact is, they barely ever use them. They much prefer to spam Amnesia and occasionally use Takedown. As usual, this fight is not particularly dangerous, but it will take a long time to clear. Sludge Bomb is not very good against most of their Pokémons, and so I cannot just spam that move. I have to switch to return for the Pokémons that resist poison. And since both of those attacks are physical, the two intimidates in this fight are not going to help me out very much. Even with the help of Steven, we have to take quite a long time to defeat all of their Pokémons, but at least I was not in any danger of losing. Once we can finally take down the last of their Pokémons, Steven gives us the Dive HM as a thanks that we have to immediately use to get to the seafloor cave. Here we have to take down the leader of the Team Aqua who wants to revive Kyogre. Since Archie does not have a Camerupt with Earthquake, the fight against him went much better than Maxi. It still took quite a long time because of the Intimidate, but there is very little I can do about that other than endure it. Anyway, after winning the match, the legendary Pokémon gets awoken anyway, and so now that both of them are awake, their abilities are clashing with each other and quickly switching the weather in the region, making it a mess. To put an end to their fighting, we go ask Rayquaza for help, and the third legendary of the trio quickly shouts at them, making them stop. Now that we have saved the planet, we can take on the last of the gyms in this region. Juan specializes in water types, which is not too bad for me. The only problem is Whiscash, since it too knows Earthquake, but I can thankfully take it down with a simple return. Things do not go so great against Kindra, since it has the time to set up quite a few double teams. Thankfully I do not miss much, and once again a well-timed poisoned finishes the job. With the biggest threat in his team defeated, I was much more calm for the rest of his Pokémons, and very quickly I was able to defeat them all too. Now that we have finally acquired all of the badges, we can enter the Victory Road, where we are quickly reached by Wally, the secondary rival of the game. His team is not too bad, but unfortunately they do not handle poison all that great. The only thing that counters it is Magneton, but of course I kept Flamethrower just for that Pokémon. With the Magnet defeated, the rest of his team quickly follows too, and so we are done with him too. Once we got to the league, I took some time to properly prepare, and then I went in. The first match is going to be against Sidney, and of course the most problematic thing on his team is the intimidating Mightyena. There is very little I can do about that, and so I have to mitigate any incoming other status effects or stats drops, and the perfect man for that job is a Substitute. That move is by far the MVP in most physical runs, especially here in the league, since it can block so much negative stuff. Like, for example, it will be a lifesaver in the next fight, since once you are hiding behind the Substitute, her lead Dusclops cannot hit you with the Curse. This fight is going to be much more annoying with Muk, because it cannot learn Shadow Ball. And so I have to use either Sludge Bomb or Thunderbolt to deal with her Pokémons, but one is resisted and the other is a special attack. Both of them are going to do very little damage, and so it will take a lot of turns to defeat each of her Pokémons. Thankfully their damage output is not that great either, and so all of those turns are not enough for her to take me down. For this fight, I also equipped a Leppa Berry, since I was expecting to run into some PP's issues, and even though it looks like it was a close fight, it was not that bad to deal with. She could have made my life much harder if she used double team on Sableye, but thankfully she didn't. Anyway, up next is Glacia, and I almost won in the first attempt, but then I got frozen and eventually defeated. That was quite a bit annoying, but at least I know that Glacia should not be that problematic, at least according to how the first attempt went. Her hail weather effect is still quite annoying, especially because it can hit you behind the substitute, but other than that she does not pose that much of a threat. As you saw, the only other real danger of this fight is getting frozen, but since that already happened once, it should not happen again, hopefully. I did not have to find that out since a crit one-shots the wall rain. Lastly, for the Elite Four, we have to deal with Drake, and this fight was quite hard. The main problem here, even though it does not seem like it from the clips, was Flygon actually. It is faster than me, he survives one attack, and is able to deal a lot of damage with Earthquake, always breaking my sub in the first attack and then chunking away more than half of my HP in the second turn. I had to use the few remaining rare candies to increase my level and hopefully outspeed it, but that was not the case. At this point, setting up another substitute is essential because I need to block the Intimidate from Salamence, but it is also very risky because it takes away quite a lot of my HP and they can easily defeat it. Fortunately, Kingdra misplayed, and so I was able to survive all the way to his ace. By some miracle, I was able to survive on single-digit HP and finish off his ace Pokémon. Lastly, we have to attempt the champion, and the fight against him is not that bad, honestly. For this match, I also thought Giga Drain instead of Return, since it will be useful against Whiscash. After setting up the sub against the Wailord as usual, he sent out Gyarados since it knows Earthquake, but I can defeat it with a Thunderbolt. Whiscash was not so easy to deal with, even though it is 4 times weak to Grass, and so, after it used Amnesia, I had to spam Sledge Bomb on it. For some weird reason, it decided to use Hyper Beam instead of Earthquake, and that gave me the time to defeat it. I then set up another substitute against Tentacruel. Not sure why, I am immune to Toxic, but I guess at least this way I should be able to block some damage. Ludicolo is obviously a one-shot with a super effective Sludge Bomb, and even though my Lotic is quite tanky, it is unable to survive a couple of attacks. I first lowered his HP with Giga Drain, and then defeated it with Sludge Bomb. This way I do not have to deal with any recover stalling. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, and all of that YouTube stuff. If you have any comments, video ideas, feedback, or anything like that, leave it down below, and I'll see you next week. Bye!